The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. Well, joining us now here as we spend time at the NAFB Convention in Kansas City, Missouri, let's talk about what we're seeing in these commodity markets. He is Global Sector Strategist for Grains and Oilseeds with Rabobank. Steve Nicholson is with us. And Steve, it is good to see you, sir. How are you?
It's good to see you in person as always.
You know, we're like 2 for 2. I saw you at Farm Progress, and that was only a couple months ago, and I'm seeing you here, and we kind of went way too long without seeing each other.
For a long, it was like an almost 2-year break there. I don't know why, but now it's when we get 2 right in a row, so that's a good thing.
Hey, I'll take it. It's always fun and enjoyable to have a conversation with you. Plenty to talk about still in these grain markets, and I think to start, we obviously had the shutdown. Lack of data. We're kind of getting back to regular order. We got a WASDE. There's the plan to catch us up on weekly export sales and you know, commitment to traders and all these things out here. So how much is this flood of data, this flow of data, in your opinion, how much is that impacting these market moves that we're seeing right now?
I think it's not a lot yet, because I think the whole China news is kind of overseen a lot of this. And this is not a criticism of USDA, because it's not their fault. I think people are a little skeptical of the data. Is like, well, what data were you collecting when you weren't working, and how does this go? So I think it's kind of like that. You don't buy the first model year of a new car; you buy the second model year of the car. Yeah. So I think people kind of waiting for that next WASDE. Of course, the January numbers on annual crop production. Let's get the export numbers sales numbers caught up, and then we'll kind of sit back and take a judgment of where we are here. But I think it's, unfortunately, like I said, I think the Chinese, I'm going to put agreement in quotes, is kind of taking all the oxygen out of the room right now.
Well, and one quick thing on the data stuff before we talk China, because I want to talk about that. Sure. But the December WASDE is typically very quiet. There's no changes. Everyone kind of, it's November and then January. But I think there's maybe some folks who are a little uncertain. Could USDA make some December changes with what we have with the shutdown?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, we hope we get all the data when we produce the report, but we know that from BLS and other things that, there's new data, and USDA revises numbers along the way. So the December report may be a little more interesting this year than we've seen in the past. So I think it's a good question and a good comment to think about. Okay, it'd be surprised if they just kind of kick the can down the road to January, because that would be another month and a half that we're waiting. We don't have any data, and almost 2 months, really, when you think about it, that we really wouldn't have any significant data. So, but we do need to get this data back and get going, because we're going to have. We've seen this before, where we get this. We get a blank page or a blank box in October. So we really need this data, and markets work better when they have data than they don't. And I think that transparency, the market needs that. If it doesn't have it, it makes stuff up that can cause a lot of angst for a lot of people.
Well, you mentioned China. Let's talk about this a bit. And obviously we're starting to see, daily flash sales. We're starting to get a few of these. We're hearing all the talk of, China bought 12, 14 cargoes, off the PNW or wherever. And, we're getting some of this in here. Obviously a big number that we supposedly need to hit by January. And the other thing too is that, of course, this is great news, but nothing's technically signed. Like, there's still a lot more question marks, I think, surrounding U.S.-China relations than there are answers right now.
No, absolutely. So we had this trade truce is what's been called, and then the White House came out and made these announcements, and you're waiting for the other side to confirm it, and we've never heard that.
Yeah.
So that's one question that gets in my mind, is like, well, I guess maybe did both sides agree to the same thing? Mm-hmm. And now you've got this agreement, the market's got risks. Oh, we got 1 million metric tons of soybeans. And you start doing the math. It's like 36 million bushels. You go, well, that's not very much. And I thought we had to get 12 by the end of the year. And now you're, the clock's ticking, and you're a month and a half. And, if you look back over history, we've moved 6 to 7 million metric tons in a month at this time of year. But we're starting from ground zero. There's no negotiations, no contracts. We got to get vessels, all that put together, and that doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And so I'd have to be, I guess I would say by the tone, a little skeptical that we'll get 12 million in by the end of the year. I just don't think there's enough time to get all the pieces put together. Could we see a couple more? Sure, absolutely. And I think I'd heard sort of, I don't know what I call it, a rumor, but sort of a discussion about, well, does this 12 million count in the 25 million, or is this a 12 million separate? And the White House says it's separate, and how, someone else might interpret that differently.
Well, and to add to this, I think that there's obviously so much angst surrounding this in-farm country, and I see the comments on our YouTube videos and more, and that's going down the political rabbit hole, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I want to talk just from what we know and the risk management side of this, and how producers can manage this. And I think on that respect is that we've seen a rally. If it's buy the rumor, sell the fact, whatever the case is, we've seen the rally. And so here's an opportunity for producers with so many unknowns still out there, Steve.
Absolutely agree. And that's the thing I've said, whether this is a rally that's going to stay or not, the reality is the market gave you a rally, $1, $1.10, $1.20 or dollars per bushel. You need to reward that rally, because if I told you, I always say this, if I told you 45 days ago that you could see $11 on the board, you would go, boy, I'm going to sell that. Well, here we are. Here's an opportunity. So I would not be shy to sell into this rally. It's not saying to sell the whole farm, but if you do $11+ beans on the board, and that's the worst you do this year, so be it. I mean, I think you've got to reward this. So whether this will all come to fruition, whether there's an agreement, the market has given you an opportunity, and I think you have to take advantage of it.
What about impacts over, and I'll start with wheat first.
Yep.
I feel like I've been looking at the three legs of the stool here lately. Soybeans have been the leader. Wheat's kind of been second, and then corn's just kind of chugging along. And we can talk corn in a minute, but what about the wheat complex as a whole? I know we got a huge global supply of wheat out there. Prices aren't great.
Nope.
I mean, what is your view of this U.S. wheat market as we look ahead to next year?
Yeah, the wheat market's really a tough one to think about right now, because you named them off. You've got everyone in the world that produces wheat getting a better crop than they anticipated. I mean, even Australia, even Russia, of course, the EU come back to their, our crop was better than last year. Argentina's crop ended up being better. And so I think, again, you get a rally in soybeans, you got a little rally in wheat, you need to reward that.
Yeah.
The question then becomes, exactly right, what does it make sense? What makes sense for next year? And, you look at that, and, we're sitting in Kansas City, Missouri, right across from Kansas, and you think, do I plant wheat next year? Do I plant soybeans? What do I do? And so I said, well, let's step back and say, okay, here's what we know new crop wheat and soybeans are selling for today. What does that look like in your budget? Where's the most margin for you? And let's not forget, if we make a decision we'll plant wheat or plant soybeans, doesn't really matter, then we need to sell some new crop of wheat against that to lock in those margins. And I think that's where sometimes we forget, is like, oh yeah, I got to do that too. So, what's the best deal for you? Also think about, what's, from a yield perspective, what has the most yield potential for you? Wheat might be the one, maybe soybeans is the one for you, but also consider fertilizer prices that come up as well. And so for wheat, to get that yield, you're going to have to put some money into the fertilizer side.
And like I mentioned, corn's kind of been the third leg of the stool here. It's there, it's churning along. Price isn't bad, but it's just all the news has been outside of the corn market, I feel like. Right.
The corn market has nothing to digest news-wise, and so typically markets don't have any. You got to feed the beast, and if you're not feeding the beast, the beast kind of gets a little lazy and kind of sits down, and maybe I'll take a nap and kind of wait. And I think the soy and also from a corn perspective, if you're a buyer in this, you're looking at this and going, I'm not really worried about supply here. But it's interesting, though, if you've looked over the last, let's say 2 to 3 weeks, basis levels have started to pick back up across the Corn Belt, even in the Dakotas where they were horrible for soybeans. You're starting to see that basis pick up, which is telling you a couple things. One is buyers potentially coming back in the marketplace because they need to start to fill their bins or fill their needs. But it's also probably probably a point that farmers have said, I don't like these prices. I'm gonna lock it away. You got to come get it. Yeah. And so basis always going to do. I think basis will do more of that work than the futures will in the end.
Final thoughts. What would you reiterate to producers as they're looking at their grain marketing and risk management right now?
Yeah. First of all, you're planning for 26. So let's really understand what that's going to cost you to put that crop in the ground, understand the potential margin, and execute against it when you sell some new crop. But at the same time, you've got old crop to sell, hopefully not a lot. But again, like we said on soybeans, for example, if you get a rally in corn or you get a rally in wheat or a rally in soybeans, again, reward those rallies and move on. It's always, I say to them, and particularly if you're able to break even or make a little margin money, you can't go broke making profits. So do it and move on and not worry about, could it go a dime higher?
Yeah.
Just move on.
Good thoughts. Always enjoy the conversation. Steve Nicholson with Rabobank. Thanks for joining us here in Kansas City. Good to see you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you. Have fun this week.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@MarketTalkAg and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.